Every year, the National Street Rod Association descends upon the buildings and grounds of the Kentucky Exposition Center with tens of thousands of custom cars, and they all can be considered dream rides. Welcome to Dream Rides and the 48th Annual NSRA Street Rod Nationals. This is the Builder's Showcase, and these machines represent the cream of the crop.
It's a 1969 Chevrolet Camaro. The basic concept is if Chevrolet had a show car in 1962 called a Camaro, what might it look like? This was obviously during the era of the 409 big block, bubble top window, very stylized interior, bright colors, sort of, a show car that never really happened until 1967, and of course it looked a little bit different. I have to give credit to Steve Stanford. He's a very well-known automotive designer. He had come up with the concept. It was published in the '09 Hot Rod magazine. I had seen it and I said, this really looks interesting, because I had never seen a retro treatment on a Camaro. Everybody either restores it or does it as a pro touring or more, kind of a real muscle car. And I'm kind of known for doing retro type things, so it just seemed real interesting, and we kind of ran with the project. What we initially did is got a plastic model of a Corvair and a Camaro, and we actually played with the plastic. So once we felt that it would work engineering-wise, I ended up getting a 65 roller Corvair that we ended up cutting the rear portion of the roof, including the window opening, out, and essentially spliced that into the back of the Camaro, widening it at the top the appropriate 2 inches. The engine is a 1962 numbers matching 409 engine. It's been bored and stroked to 472 cubic inches, shade under 500 horsepower. That's a 61-61, 1 year only steering wheel. The color of the car is a 61 Chevy Roman red. It's the matching original vinyl. The fabric is 57 Chevy cloud pattern black and red, salt and pepper red and black carpet. The overwhelming positive reaction has made us feel very proud of being able to get this thing done.
This is a 1966 Corvette. It started out as just a rear tub. Then we kind of rescued that and then started the custom project. It's been cut down the middle. It's been widened 6 3/8 inches. Every body line has been changed down the car, reshaped, just to take away from the illusion of how wide it is. Everything's been smoothed out. A lot of things have been changed, and pretty much everything on it is a one-off custom in design and construction. The 6 3/8 added in the middle was all new glass, all added into the middle. And then it's not just done directly down the middle. We had to do it in a few different places. It's like sectioning or whatever, but you're doing it on the top of the car. So it posed its own problems, but in the end, I think it came out pretty good. The engine's an LS9. It's an awesome engine, but they're also notorious for getting heat soaked on that top-mounted supercharger. So with EVOD, we designed a new supercharging system. So it's got a larger cover. It actually exits the rear of the engine into billet reservoirs. From there, it goes into the fender, and we have hidden radiators with 2 fans. And then there's Bosch pumps in the rear of the car that pushes the coolant through the whole system. The lights, those are all controlled off the phone, so we can roll the lights up, we can turn the lights on and off, which is kind of nice. It gives you a daytime running light feature, so when you start the car up, you can have the headlights shining into the grille, kind of illuminates the whole front end. Looks kind of scary coming up behind you, so it's a good thing. The interior is based off like a 2016 Z06 car, so it's C7-ish. So we had to form all the panels to look like a new Corvette interior. It was a little over 20,000 hours. So 9 guys working, 17 months. Pretty much lived at the shop for the last 3 months during the process. So it was a rough build. It was tough. It was worth it, for sure. You forget about how bad it was later.
Still more of the Builder Showcase on tap from the NSRA Street Rod Nationals, including a fine 49 Caddy convertible. Dream Rides will be right back. Dream Rides is being brought to you by Steel Rubber Products, quality crafted rubber parts and weather stripping. Mycanic, turn your own wrench. Performance Automatic, custom transmission packages from street to pro touring. And by Dustless Blasting, it's the future of surface preparation. Welcome back to Dream Rides and the 48th Annual NSRA Street Rod Nationals. Every vehicle on the grounds of the Kentucky Expo Center is special, but there are some that receive special honors.
Builder Showcase is, we have about 30 builders that bring samples of their work. You know, it's kind of a, let me show you what I can do stuff, you know, and they send in deals every year I want to be in, and it's become, to me, a very prestigious ability to be in the Builder Showcase. You have to submit the car. You have to be a builder. You know, we don't take individual entries. You know, even though there are some really, really nice ones, it has to be done by a professional shop, and you send the information in, and the headquarters looks at it and makes the decisions.
We got a 49 Cadillac convertible. It's got a 1959 Cadillac 390 engine with a really rare horn intake, 4 Strombergs, and a 4L60 transmission. And so this is my wife, Lori. This is actually her car. She had one and I sold it out from underneath her. She got a little upset with me, so I built her this one. But when I decided to replace it, some of her input wasn't taken seriously, right?
All of it.
She didn't want gold paint. She wanted green, right?
Dark emerald green.
She ended up with gold paint. She didn't want the cluster moved to the center. She doesn't like white wall tires. But in the end, you're happy, right?
I'm very happy. It's awesome, yes.
So sometimes she has trouble envisioning things, you know, but in the end, I think she's completely satisfied with the car and won't give it up, right?
That's right.
It was a little rough. Matter of fact, it was really rugged. No rockers, holes in the floors, holes in the trunks, was missing the front clip. So I actually bought this car and a parts sedan, and we used most of the parts from the sedan to complete the car. We used the front clip of the sedan, some of the rockers, some of the trim. The guy actually bought it 30 years ago and stripped the car and left it sit that way for the last 30 years and was going to restore it. And so we got it as a stalled project. It was in pretty rugged shape. So we wanted a vintage look with it, and we just happened to luck into that intake manifold. And I bought it off a guy in Minnesota, wouldn't even ship it to me, so I had to drive from South Carolina to Minnesota just for an intake manifold. And but nothing looks like a vintage Caddy motor with a couple Strombergs on it. With enough equipment and time and dollar bills, we can make it happen. But they're not making these anymore, so we try to save all we can, especially if it comes to something rare like a 40s Cadillac convertible.
Chris and Lori Ryan have to be pleased with their Cadillac convertible all decked out in gold and chrome, and there is one source for all sorts of chrome parts in the street rod scene.
We're the Bumper Boys, and we do travels back east and do shows up and down the coast from Pennsylvania down to Florida to Michigan, throughout the eastern side, and we recondition bumpers and we bring them out and sell them at the show. And we straighten them, strip them, and then sandblast them, then go to a series of grinding, and then we go ahead and buff them, copper them, buff the copper, and then nickel and chrome. We do the big three, big time. We do a lot of Buicks and Cadillacs, and we do a lot of Ford, and a lot of Mopar bumpers. And we do foreign stuff too, so bumpers like Triumph and Volvo, Mercedes, that line, Volkswagen also. We do general planing, anything to do with the interior, exterior, emblems, horn rings, dash parts, exterior parts, whatever. You know, we straighten them out, and if they're broken, we weld them and replate them, get them back to the customer. We do some aluminum and stainless work. We've been at it for a long time, so we have a lot of connections to get things processed, done, and back to the customer. If you need anything done, just call the 800 number. We'll get you what you need. We'll meet you at a show. You save on shipping both ways. The website is bumperboys.com.
It's a 1935 three-window standard Chevy Coupe. I was contacted about this from a friend of mine who I used to work for, and then so far he retired, and he couldn't get to the car anymore. So the car needed finished, and it came to my shop. And 2 years later, here it is. It's an entire year of metalwork bringing it back to life, and then another year of paint, bodywork, and everything else. It's not like your typical Ford. Usually the Chevys, of course, they don't make a lot of reproduction panels for, and then also a lot of Chevys, they had wood inner structures, so these cars over time fell apart. So yeah, there wasn't a lot of stuff, and made a lot of it from scratch just because I couldn't find parts, or also changing things up. The car is still owned by the same guy, that Dave Thomas, for 35 years, and it's been Pro Streeted, it's been many different ways. It's been here, driven here in the 80s. The Hallebrands that are on this are original Hallebrands from back in the day. Dave Thomas, the owner of the car, bought them brand new from Hallebrand. And when we started redoing this car, he was like, him and Holland, I don't know what to use for wheels. I said, we're using those Hallebrands. You know they're real. They say Hallebrand on them. They're never done. There are some little things we have to tweak, but, and we drove it. We took it down to Nashville and did a road tour down there with it, and just hitting the show circuit up this year with it. So, yeah, we're meant to be driven.
There's still more to come from the NSRA Nationals, including an amazing Auburn boat tale with an astounding backstory. More Dream Rides in a moment. Welcome back to Dream Rides at the Kentucky Exposition Center in Louisville, Kentucky. Let's continue with our look at the Builders Showcase exhibition at the 48th Annual NSRA Street Rod Nationals.
It's a 1935 Auburn Boattail Speedster. We purchased the car probably 12 years ago. It just sat rusting down, and we got the opportunity to come back to Builder Showcase this year, and we didn't have a customer that really wanted to put the time nor the money in to build a car to this caliber. We just decided to build this one because it was different, and Mr. Wilkerson told us that there'd never been one in the showcase in NSRA history. So we just all came together and decided that's what we wanted to do. The car actually comes with suicide doors to begin with, but it has big gaudy hinges on the side, and we decided we were just going to use some street rod suicide door hinges, and we just, to hide them. We had 3 different colors picked out for the car, and I just kept going back to white. And I told the interior guys, look, I need the reddest red you have, and I want everything in it red with silver stitching. And it turned out pretty good. I'm glad we went with white. It was probably a 5 out of 10. I mean, it had its wear and tear, and wouldn't run. Brakes were locked up. It just sit there. So, I mean, it needed some help. It's built to drive. Not only can you take it to a show and really draw some attention with it, but it is built to drive. So you can get in it, air up the suspension, and just take off.
Let's take a moment to look at ways that street rods can get their power to the pavement.
Here at Modern Driveline, we're a 5- and 6-speed conversion specialist, and we've been with Tremec for 19 years, and we provide 5- and 6-speed overdrive transmissions for the hot rod and muscle car market. What we have here on the table today is a T56 Magnum 6-speed double overdrive. The transmission has multiple shift position capabilities to make it very versatile for the aftermarket. T56 Magnum is good for 700 foot-pounds torque rating. And over here to my right, I have a TKO 600 5-speed. Has a single overdrive. It is complete with a 26-spline input shaft, again 31, again single overdrive. Modern Driveline also offers a front shift T5 that we've tooled up and did a casting to move the shifter from the back to the front. We've also, for the Ford flathead guys, we also offer a flathead T5 conversion. At Modern Driveline, we offer a complete line of reproduction clutch pedals for a lot of classic Fords and Chevys. We're now making a complete line of modern day Z-bars. Modern Driveline also is tooled up to do a lot of custom clutches, everything from organic to Kevlar and everything from street to strip. Also part of our lineup is that we've teamed up with key customers like Dynatech and QA1 for many of our high-performance drive shafts. For more information, see us at moderndriveline.com.
Now let's turn our attention to a transformed pickup truck.
This is a 1949 Chevrolet 5-window C10. It's sitting on a 05 Corvette C5 chassis. The truck came from Avery, Texas, and that's where my dad was born and raised. And we found the truck in a pine thicket with pine trees growing up through it. And my dad actually told me, why aren't we going to build this rotten truck? And I'm like, Dad, there's not a whole lot of the truck that we need. I mean, all of the floor pans in the bed and all that stuff is gone. I mean, we basically use the cab of the truck and the fenders and the hood in front of the truck. But there's so much metal work on this truck that we didn't need a complete, nice, everyday driver 49 to cut up and do this to. The engine is out of the Corvette that we've harvested all the chassis work from, so it's just a LS1 with a Magnuson blower on it. We customized the valve covers on it, built those ourselves. Nearly everything in the truck has been hand-stitched. We've tried to get the vintage luggage look, vintage roadster seat look, but the seats are hand fabricated out of fiberglass and foam, and then he hand stitched the seat covers together. Whenever we started this truck, my dad said he probably wouldn't be around for my son to pay for my son's college tuition. So he said he could either have the truck or go to college. At that time, we didn't know what the truck was going to turn out to be, but we may have to reconsider that college deal now.
When we come back for more from the NSRA Nationals, we're going to focus on some Fords from the Depression days. Dream Rides will be right back. Dream Rides is being brought to you by Steel Rubber Products, quality crafted rubber parts and weather stripping. Bumper Boys, the finest re-chromed bumpers. Custom Auto Sound, the originator of classic car OEM fit radio since 1977. And by Clamp Tight, the clamp making tool. Welcome back to Dream Rides and the 48th annual NSRA Street Rod Nationals from Louisville, Kentucky. Let's finish off this look at the Builder Showcase with a pair of fabulous Fords.
What we have here is a 1933 Ford Roadster. It's an American Speed 33 body. And so we started with it, basically just the body, fenders, and frame, and then build it up from there with a little bit of body work, we'll line up gaps, metal work, an overall plan that our customer wanted for the car. We work with our customer a lot for the ideas that he has in mind and what we can and can't do. So he wanted a really elegant street rod that he could cruise around. That's what the black and silver comes from, a little Rolls-Royce kind of look to it. Under the hood is a Roush 348 crate motor that we dressed up to look like original, like if it was in 1933 or built in the 50s with the Thunderbird valve covers on it. So it's producing, 400 some horsepower. It's got a lot of throat to her. The whole car was totally stripped down. Everything had to be re-chromed, repainted. I mean, it was a mess. So we're very blessed that it wasn't a total loss, but a lot of work, and it was a long road getting her back to this point. I also like to specialize in cool hot rods and street cars that you're not afraid to drive them on the road. They're really nice, but you still want to drive them. You don't want to keep them in your garage and just look at them.
'37 Ford, as Ford put it out, it's a two-door, T-U-D-O-R, standard, slant back. I bought it for the original owner. He was an old guy that retired. He worked on the railroad and 61,000 miles on it. And I bought it in 1966. I was 16. And I overhauled the flathead and primered it up and the hot rod thing that you do when you're a teenager. And then I graduated and I bought a 56 Ford and I left it at home in the barn for 45 years. So drug it out 4 years ago and did a couple of different builds, but this is what I ended up with. I wanted to get back to Henry Ford look, you know, the original type thing, and right down to the Ford Washington historic blue, and LeBaron and Bonney 37 Ford material inside. And of course I got a Ford in the Ford, did a Stroker 347 from Speedway Blueprint. Borla injection, so it runs pretty good, but it looks like a Ford. I wanted something that would be a good driver, so I, you know, on the undercarriage and the engine and all the powertrain, I wanted that to be, you know, modern, but I didn't want it to really show that much, you know, as far as going down the road. I didn't want to do any restoration on the body other than, you know, a couple of dings, which I didn't have too much damage, but so I just wanted it to restore back to look like the 37 that I bought when original, you know. If somebody likes hot rods, street rods, they can appreciate it, but if somebody likes vintage, they can appreciate that too. And that's kind of the best of two worlds. And I think it would be something I can drive for 10 years and still feel good in it. And that's what I wanted.
We've only scratched the surface of the amazing machines here at the NSRA Street Rod Nationals, so you'll be glad to know that we'll be back for more over the next 2 weeks. On the menu for our next episode will be radical race cars, sleek station wagons, and even a classic crafted from copper. Be sure to join us for more Dream Rides.